It's rivalry week in college football. Steve Merrill stopping by from Wager Talk TV right here on YouTube, wagertalk.com for Steve's complete look at college football, the NFL, and the NBA. Iowa, Nebraska get together, Steve, and it's always a fun one to break down this Iowa squad that's coming off a 15-13 win over Illinois that wrapped up the Big Ten Western Division. So what's strange to football fans that aren't into the wagering aspect is Iowa won the Big Ten West. They're 9-2. Nebraska continues to be a dumpster fire that loses one-score games all the time. They're 5-6. They've lost 3 consecutive games, but Nebraska is the 2-point favorite. And of course, we got to keep an eye on that over/under at 26.
Yeah, that's what we have to talk about. In fact, speaking of Wager Talk TV, I do a lot of daily college football shows there as well. And earlier this week on the Tuesday show, which is still posted up there, I used this as my big game breakdown. And I thought of you, Mark, as I was doing it. I figured I'd get a little extra prep because I knew we'd be talking about this one here on the Voice of College Football. And as I said on that show, and I'll say it again, history will be made in Lincoln, Nebraska on Friday. And it doesn't even matter who wins this game. History will be made because this will be the lowest over-under ever posted on a college football game. Now, I wasn't alive 70, 80 years ago like you were, Mark, but I don't think there were many over-under lines back in the day. And maybe if somebody gave you one on the offshoot, in the New York streets or whatever, maybe some Ivy League game had a total lower. But no official posted total in Vegas, at least, has ever been this low. And we've said that a few times, I believe, this season. We had history made just a couple weeks ago, right? And history is made to be broken, is the old saying. And that total closed at 27.5 for Rutgers 2 games ago against Iowa. And it stayed under. In fact, Iowa has now gone under 6 straight. And if you recall, the last time they went over was back on September 30th. And we talked about that Michigan State-Iowa game. And the only reason it went over the closing total of 37 and landed on 42 is because Michigan State had a 42-yard fumble return for touchdown in the third quarter. Otherwise, that one stays under. And as I pointed out during that game back in September, Ralph Michaels, Stat Daddy, the database at RaderTalk.com, had a great angle. He'd said over the past 6-7 years, when the total was 36.5 or less, the under was 20-5 in college football. And the reason that's important is because 37 is a very key number, like 4 to 5% chance games land on 37. That Michigan State game actually technically closed at 37, went up from 36.5, so it didn't qualify. But since then, Iowa's now gone under 6 straight, and the last 5 games have all seen a total of 34 or less, and they've all 5 stayed under. So I know this is the lowest total ever. I know it's hard to pull the trigger and play an under, but it's the right play. And maybe they finally priced it low enough. But the last 5 games alone, we've had totals of 21, 22, 17, 22, and 28 points. So yes, last week would have barely gotten over this total with Illinois. But Nebraska's a better defensive team, probably a weaker offensive team than Illinois. I do worry a little bit about the focus because, like you said, Iowa actually doesn't have a lot to play for in this game. And sometimes that shows on the defensive side of the ball. But let's not be fooled also by the 22 points Iowa put up against Rutgers. Rutgers was coming off the Ohio State loss the week before. I think they were just flat. Iowa has scored 15 or less in their other 4 games on each side. I think the under is the only way to play it. And my database simulation, by the way, let's get back to the game itself, is a pick'em. So I do think there's some value with Iowa +2. An excellent play, actually, in all seriousness, is a 6-point teaser. For those that aren't familiar with sports betting, you get to move the line 6 points. So Iowa becomes +8. That sounds like a great deal, right? Well, the catch is you got to play 2 games. You got to win them both. But once again, getting Iowa from +2 to +8 in a low-scoring game is an excellent 6-point teaser. And you can tie that up with some NFL games throughout the week as well. So a lot of different ways to play this one on Friday.
As long as the motivation is there, Steve, it just seems to me as though Iowa always figures out a way to win and Nebraska always figures out a way to lose. And they're typically 1-score games. Nebraska with one of the worst 1-score game results in the last 5 years of college football, and Iowa with one of the best. Steve's Under the Radar selection is exclusive here at the Voice of College Football. Check it out on the main channel as a YouTube channel member on the main channel. 20-5 against the spread since week 1 of 2022. Steve, thank you so much for dropping by.
Hey, thank you, Mark.